depends on your body. It's not really up to me. So it's probably a little harder to see that because it's really small, but when we go wingspan, so I'm going to check my fingertip to fingertip height. If my arms are shorter than my height, then your swing is going to be what we call more of a low track swing, right? So again, so golf, the term that it would be more kind of a Jim Hardy one plane club in the arm swing really across your chest, like really low across your chest. Now, again, as complicated as everybody says golfing machine is, if I turn, this is my right shoulder and it's turned, this is my right shoulder turned, right shoulder plane, my arm, that's what I'm using to reference where my arm is going to go. I like to watch where elbows go as well, because if I see someone who goes up to the top and their elbows way above their shoulder, they're probably not meant to be a high track, right? So like if I drop that, you see how that like actually my trail hand and my trail arm is actually influencing where my arm is going. So I do really like to try to think more of your dominant side. I'm a big believer that your lead side is just holding on. Again, Hogan 1 and 3 right hands, not 3 left hands. 3 left arms, I should say, 3 right arms. So equal, again, I'm a mid-track, so when I go up to the top, my arms are gonna just be right across my shoulder. And if your wingspan is longer, it's gonna go up a lot higher. That's when I usually start to slice it. My arms like to go high. And why does that matter? It's gonna influence your setup. So if you have longer arms, you tend to have less knee bend and a little taller posture. If you have shorter arms, you're gonna have a lot more bend from the hips. And then in between, again, a little bit more knee flex and hip flex. Did I skip one? No, 3. So again, trail hand. So there's a couple different ways that Mike and EA kind of teach this to test it. One way is palms together, let the arm swing back, and wherever your palm goes, that's kind of your grip, okay? That's usually tough for people because they like to turn their body. You're really not supposed to turn your body when you do that. So if I turned and I went like this, that's more of a side under grip. If I go, again, you can see how this is my natural action. My elbow just goes right up. That's more of a cover grip. So you can see how weak my right hand is versus, again, like a Dustin Johnson, stronger. Again, this is where everybody likes to be, more neutral. But again, it depends. So the drill that I like to do to show people, and I'm going to use my big club here because you see it. So if I'm a cover. So if I grip my right hand interlock and my right hand gets really like strong and I come through here, you can see how fast that club face is twisting. Okay, so you gotta think about the left hand's controlling the face, but the right hand is really controlling the closure rate. So if I get it too strong, it closes it too fast. Now, if I take my right hand and put it more weak, I do the same thing. That club face swings a lot more on plane. It feels way more stable to me. So that's a really easy way for you to test that. The tricky part is most of the time people have a really strong grip and they train themselves to go like this. They're trying to keep it from shutting, okay? So you do have to let your hands kind of have a little bit mobility, and you can see how much that's twisting and shutting. So I would hook it if I grip it like that, which is why I don't. Again, so we refer to that more under, side on. So like side ons, like my hands like shaking. I would tell you that's what most teachers' preference is just like a neutral grip, and then side cover. The big thing when we start talking about the grip, and again, like I want to say it's week 2, 3, we start talking about the takeaway, I think it's week 3, and how your grip dictates how you load the club. So, and the reason why I'm doing week 1, again, because for some reason the video did not get saved. So I feel like this is a really important building blocks for everything else that I start going through. All right, so pivot. So what we find, again, I'm not trying to put everybody into a bucket. There are a lot of tendencies that I see. You can always have outliers. But the more this grip gets strong, the more that person tends to get back behind the golf ball. The more it's neutral, the more they stay center. And for me, if I get weaker, I tend to go more left. Okay, so again, so we have a front post, a center post, and a rear post. And then when you start talking about Dr. Wright stuff, the sequencing of that actually can influence your posting. So when you start seeing how all these pieces start to flow and work together, again, Brian, who's on tonight, like that was one thing that he started realizing was we started kind of mixing some things together, and it makes it harder to be consistent, have control, and be repeatable, and make good contact. So what we start to see with those grips and how we load is also the real big topic anymore, is how we're using the ground, right? So whether we're gliding, whether we're rotating, or whether we're pushing. I always like how Mike and EA would kind of show it is if I take my hand and I kind of like push up against the wall right here, I'm gonna go this way. If I push my hand here, I'm gonna rotate. And if I put my hand here, I'm gonna push down and up. So you see how my trail hand is really gonna influence how I'm actually trying to use the ground. So for a guy who should have been like this for a long time, my whole life, I was interlocking under, loading into my right side, and I had no idea how to get over to my left side. I'd always stay behind the ball and just fall away from the ball because I wasn't really supposed to be back there. So when people are like, well, what happens if you do stuff you're not built to do? Well, you can, it's just you're not gonna play your best golf. All right, so putting it all together, right? So again, we're getting into, we want flat left wrist, okay? And this is where when the trail hand is wrong, I find it's usually because the lead hand is incorrectly on the club. So we're gonna talk about the lead hand going through, and again, we got our plane line. BioSwing, again, the slot, if we measure our forearm to upper arm, that's gonna be your downswing slot. I kind of watch that a little bit, but I'm not too enamored with it. I really want to see where my backswing, I feel like if I load you right, you're gonna swing down in a pretty good move. But again, like trying to go through and starting to learn what maybe your swing type is. And what I stress to people all the time is think about like when you played some of your best golf, and what did I do when I did that? Now, if you're a beginner, sometimes this is hard because you haven't played golf for a long time, so you don't know what you have done or what you need to do. So when you're kind of tinkering, what I would tell you is video is awesome. Again, the cameras that are on our phones are better than the cameras I had to buy 10 years ago for $1,000 to capture like 60 frames per second. So you're getting 240 frames per second in slow motion, and there's plenty of apps that you can slow motion and click it and do it, but there's certain things that we're going to see as, like for me, where does my body tend to want to go, right? So people who are rear post golfers, they usually get critiqued for being swayers. Now I want you to understand, again, we're going to get more into this when we start talking about other parts of the golf swing, but that's a sway. That's a load, okay? Like, so if I go this way, my body's going that way. That's not good. And we talk about that, I believe, in week 3. So trying to start to figure out how you're matching things up. Again, tinker around, move the right hand, move the left hand. Before I go on, I am gonna show you like my one thing is, again, I got my fancy Callaway Lagmaster glove here. And so there's a spot here in my wrist called the anatomical snuff box. In line with that, roughly right about the middle of the webbing of the hand, I always put a dot. So if I don't usually wear a glove, because I hate taking it off. If I do, I just go Jack Nicklaus style and leave it on. I don't ever take it off. But when I take that grip, I want that dot down the center of the club. So the worst place for me to put my thumb is down the middle. Now if I get really close here, you can see how that dot is actually in front of the grip. If I just, again, like I always want it to be up here, butt of the club pointing towards my belly button. The dot is down the center. I can see the grooves on the face, making sure that the face is square, right? Okay, here. And then from here too, I can bring in my right hand and put my right hand on a lot easier. I find a lot of times people kind of go into their setup, and then we talked about this last week. They set their feet down, put the club on, club on the ground, then they try to figure out their grip. They're kind of doing it completely backwards from every tour pro. So trying to get into a routine. So again, so things for what we want to do at home is definitely checking our wingspan. Again, usually it's ideally to have somebody help you with that. Go through, again, your trail arm versus forearm. Again, I wouldn't stress that one as much. I'm going to check more of how the club is trying to act. Another great drill, I forgot this one, is, I call it the fly fishing drill, and I have juniors who do this every single time. They'll take their club, so I got a really strong grip right now. If I lay this on my shoulder and kind of throw it out, and I'm just thinking right arm straight, you can see how close that club face gets on me. So what if I do, if I get my right hand more over, and I can't interlock it when I do that because it feels really weird, and I do that same thing, that club face doesn't want to shut as fast. So I find a lot of times as a cover golfer, people who get interlocked, they start trying to hold it off, trying to keep the face from shutting. So that's another way that you can test to make sure your grip is good. Again, so I think we're going to go through and let's just do some like our homework for next week. So I think, yep. So I want really slow, methodical swings. So if I have an impact bag, that's great. I love to get the sticks on the ground. Again, one of my favorite drills is if you don't have a laser, you can put your club, kind of get this in here. It acts like my laser. So I'm going to tell you, if you are more of a side under golfer or side on, you want to trace the baseline. Now I'm going to try to angle this back down again.